pretty passionate about journaling. And that's something that I'm pretty passionate about myself. So I would love to know what kind of like benefits you see with journaling and how you think it can help others.
That is a great question, and you are correct. I am a daily journaler, and I have been journaling since I was a little kid, really.
Yeah.
And over the years, my depth of my journaling has gotten deeper and deeper. And as far as benefits, gosh, they're really unlimited. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like for me personally, though, I like to really use my journal as a place to brainstorm and reflect and really set my intentions for what I want my life to look like. So I'm really big on gratitude journals and tracking my physical health and what I'm eating, how my finances are going, even just brainstorming on things that can help me in my relationships like date nights with my husband or quality time with my kids. I really think there's just something to writing it down. And even research shows when you write it down, you're more likely to do it. You're more
Mm-hmm.
likely to achieve those goals. And there's just so many wonderful benefits of journaling that I'm definitely an advocate.
Oh, I love that. And I like how, you mentioned like financial stuff, things with your kids and keeping track of like the things that you eat. I know some people keep track of how they move their body, and you can keep track of, the type of self-care that you're performing. And I feel like there's kind of like a misconception around journaling that it's just kind of like a diary,
Hmm.
and whereas that's really helpful in itself to get your thoughts and your feelings out on paper, it's
Yeah.
easier to digest the way that you're feeling and the things that are going on in your life. But it's also important to journal and keep track of the things that you mentioned as well, like finances, especially in, today's economy. We got to keep
Hmm.
track of them pennies, and your nutrition, the way you're moving your body, because sometimes the world is so fast paced. It's really easy to just get caught up in life, um, and to not really pay attention to how your moods have been going, how active you've been or inactive, or how much you've ate or not ate. Because I know myself, there's been days that go by, and well, not whole days that go by without eating, but there's times where I'm like, man, I'm not feeling too great. My head hurts. I'm a little cranky. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I haven't even ate yet. So I should probably do that. Um,
Right.
so it's really valuable to keep track of what you're doing and how it's affecting you.
Absolutely. And it's really beneficial to have the visual to
Hmm.
see, okay, am I making progress forward or am I going in the opposite direction of what I desire? And
Hmm.
so it's just a really good motivational piece to give you that boost of, okay, I am moving in the right direction. Let's keep that momentum going. Or, sometimes we do have some days where we take some steps back and it's like, okay, that's okay, but I'm going to use that as a learning tool to help me get back to where I want to be and move forward to where my goals are.
Mm, that's a really good point, because keeping track of goals and the steps that you've taken and the steps that you still have to take is really, really important in achieving goals, especially the bigger goals that do take those steps to get to.
For sure. And if you can break them down into smaller, doable steps and actions, that's really where a lot of that momentum is going to be held at.
I absolutely agree. And it can seem like a lot, all the things that have potential to be tracked to, improve our lives. And I know you mentioned balanced living. How would you recommend somebody have that balance, or, kind of like start to have that balance of journaling and keeping track of things, as well as still being progressive in their life and not just sitting down and journaling all day?
Absolutely. I believe that each person's journal and priorities are going to be different,
Hmm.
and what they need from that is going to be unique to the individual. So it comes down to asking yourself, what are my priorities? Is my
Hmm.
for me personally, my faith is my number one priority, and then my
Hmm.
family and my health and my finances are also a priority. And I just kind of break it down into the way that I want to give the most attention to or make the most
Mhm.
progress with. And there there's a lot of different diagrams online that you can look at, and they might have like subcategories, but a few of them, just to name off, you could analyze like, how are you doing spiritually, how are
Mhm.
you doing emotionally, relationally, physically, cognitively, financially, skillfully. And then each of those categories, and this is a good time of the year. We're still early in the year. A
Mhm.
lot of people set their intention for January, and they will make their New Year's resolutions. And as you do that, it's so good to just break down those different categories of your life and say, okay, how satisfied am I with my physical health, or
Mhm.
emotionally, where I'm at, or relationally, or the different the different areas of your life. And then from there, you can build a million different ways to
Mhm.
to chart it. There's stickers, there's charts, there's timelines, all different. There's the dot journals that some people use. There's a
Mhm.
lot of different mechanisms, but ultimately just having a space to write down and reflect and make a plan,
Mhm.
and then implement it.
Yeah.
And there's so much to that we often take for granted, but if we take that time, like you said, it doesn't have to be all day every day, but even
Mhm.
just 10 minutes a day to reflect and give that some attention and move forward in the direction that we want.
Oh, absolutely. And I like how you said, even 2 minutes a day, because that's what I kind of always, that's how I did it. And that's how I encourage other people too, because 2 minutes a day is, kind of nothing. It's
Mm-hmm.
a very short amount of time. But if you can conquer those 2 minutes every single day for a week, and then you can move on to your next week and start to devote maybe 4 minutes a day. And then
Right.
once you conquer that, you just move on and on and on until you are at a place where you're like, okay, this is sufficient. This is benefiting me in the way that I want it to. And for some people, that could look like 30 minutes a day of journaling, set aside to just reflect and focus on the areas in life that you want to focus on. Um, and I know you mentioned it's still, early in the year and people are having those New Year's resolutions and stuff. But something that's been important to me is realizing that you don't have to wait for the new year. You don't have
For
to wait
sure.
for the first of the month. You don't have to wait for Monday. If it is Wednesday and you're like, okay, I want to accomplish something, then start setting those goals on Wednesday. You don't have to wait for, the new sunrise or the new week, the new month, and most definitely not the new year. Because,
Absolutely. All we really have is the present moment. So
mm-hmm,
I want to encourage everybody to start where you're at. And
yep,
that's going to be unique for each individual.
absolutely. And it's okay to start where you're at as well. You don't have to be at a certain place before you can start something.
For sure.
Yeah.
And there's that phrase that goes, if you waited until everything was perfect to
Mm-hmm.
start, you'd never start. Things
Never.
are not going to be perfect. Life is
Nope.
messy. Things are busy. Just start.
Start wherever you are, however you are, and whenever you can. You don't have to do it at 6 in the morning like everybody else. You can make it your own.
For sure.
Um, and the journaling with the reflecting is really valuable in that, because if you're keeping track of the new things that you're starting, it's easier to realize what areas of that bring you happiness. Um, just to give a very vague example, say you start getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to the gym every day,
Mhm.
and you're like, wow, going to the gym really benefits me. It gives me a lot of energy throughout the day. I feel more flexible. I feel calmer. I love the way going to the gym makes me feel. But waking up at 6 in the morning does not.
Right.
And so, that's whenever you can self reflect. Okay, that's making me feel great. How about I just start going at 7 instead? And then you
Hmm.
can reflect on that and you're like, okay, now I have more motivation in the morning. I feel more energized in the morning. 7 o'clock works better. And now I'm going to the gym and everything's, hunky dory and it's great. So,
Right. Yeah, that's a
re-
good point. And
mm-hmm,
to add on to that, I'd like to say there's so many things that could benefit us that if we just base like how do we feel in that moment, like, oh, okay, I don't feel like getting up early,
mm-hmm,
but like I tell a lot of my clients and patients that kind of like with working out, it's like most people before they're working out they don't feel like working
mm-mm,
out but
no,
after they've done it they're like, man, I'm so glad I worked out.
mm-hmm,
And there that can go for a number of different things: eating healthy, working out, taking
mm-hmm,
a shower, you know uh, simple to complex things that if we ultimately align our actions with our
mm-hmm.
priorities, it's going to be satisfying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I can absolutely relate to that because I've personally suffered with depression for a
Hmm.
really long time. I'm doing so much better now, better than I have ever done. Um,
Wonderful.
but you mentioned, taking a shower. That might seem so
Hmm.
simple to some people, but people who struggle with depression, they will understand that taking a shower sucks.
Right.
You do not want to get up. You do not want to get in there. There's something about it. And I'm also a sensory person.
Hmm.
So if I don't feel like it, and then also going from dry to wet is just not something that I want to do.
Hmm.
But every single time I would force myself into that shower during a depressive episode, I would feel so much better. Like about midway through the shower, once I've gotten my shampoo in and my full
Hmm.
body's wet and warm, it's like, wow, this is what I needed almost every time. And then I don't even want to get out of the shower. I'm like,
Right.
I just want to
Yeah.
stand here under the hot water. Like, this is so nice. It feels so good. Um, and the same thing would apply whenever I don't have much time now. I need to start making more time, but I used to really enjoy going to the gym.
Hmm.
Or I should say, I really used to enjoy being at the gym. I did not enjoy going there, getting ready, and going there. But once I got there, I'd get those pumps in and I wouldn't leave. There would be times that I would be at the gym for 2 hours and
Yeah.
feel
Yeah. That
great.
there really is something to be said about momentum, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Even if sometimes my husband will ask me, "Do you want to go on a walk?" and I won't feel like it, but
No.
then I'll say, "Well, I'll just go to, you know, this short distance."
Mm-hmm.
But once I get started, I actually end up doing like 5 times as long because,
Mm-hmm.
it's just the snowball effect that you
Mm-hmm.
do something small and then it grows into something bigger and bigger. And you look back and you're like, I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, absolutely. And a little off topic, but still kind
Mhm.
of relevant. Um, since I've had my kiddo, I don't get to sleep in to the time that I want to sleep in every day. I have to wake up when she wakes up.
Mhm.
On the weekends, me and my boyfriend, we trade off. On Saturdays, he gets to sleep in, and on Sundays, I get to sleep in.
Mhm.
And there's something that I've noticed that whenever I sleep in, I feel like so groggy and tired all throughout the day. And it's like a really
Right.
weird feeling. And even by, time 4 or 5 o'clock rolls around, I feel just so weird. And for
Mhm.
the longest time, I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, I was like, am I not eating enough? Am I dehydrated? Like, what is going on? But just the past few weeks, I have discovered that it's like my body is at rest for too long.
Mhm.
And it's like it stays in that rest state. And it's
Yeah.
the whole, body emotion stays in motion. And so I realize it's like the longer I rest and the longer I stay still, the worse I feel and like the more
Mhm.
tired I feel. And
Yeah, it's
so,
definitely there's a balance between
yeah.
getting enough rest and getting too much.
Oh, absolutely. And so now on my sleep in days, I don't sleep in as late. I used to sleep in until 10 a.m., which
Mhm.
is way too long, especially when I'm going to bed at 9 or 10. and
Yeah.
so, and I didn't realize that. I was like, I'm tired. I need more sleep. So let me get all this sleep in. And so recently I'm like, okay, I'm not going to sleep until 10. I'll sleep until 9. And as soon as I wake up, instead of sitting down, having my coffee and scrolling on my phone like I used to,
Mhm.
I'm getting up and I'm doing some walking in the house. It might
Yeah.
sound silly, but I will pace my house to
Hmm.
get my blood going.
Yeah.
I'll pick up some things off the floor, I'll do some dishes, and then I will sit down and have my coffee. And the difference that has made is crazy. Like, you would have never thought, like, I'm tired, so I get more sleep, and the more sleep I get, the more tired I am. Like, that makes no
Yeah.
sense, but
Yeah.
it's how it works.
And how we start our day, our mindset, our movement, the first thing that we eat or drink, it really does carry us throughout the day. So
Mhm.
it's great that you're being more mindful of that.
Mhm.
And I think those are some very good points.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it really bothered me for a while. I was like, because I have to take a thyroid medicine, so I was like, am I taking my thyroid medicine too late? Like, what is going on?
Hmm.
And then I realized it's movement. I need to
Yeah,
get my body moving. So
absolutely.
yeah, that was something valuable I learned recently.
I love it.
Thank you. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about on like the wellness area?
I just want to encourage everybody to do their best with their wellness and have enough grace for yourself to know that that's going to look different every day. I know you mentioned struggling with depression,
Mm-hmm.
and I have been there as well, as I'm sure many of our listeners have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not perfection that we are striving for, it's progress.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to tie everything up with a ribbon, we talked earlier about starting where you are. Start where you are and don't judge
Mm-hmm.
yourself based upon how people on social media are doing, or, how your best friend's doing. Just focus on where you're at, and then where you want to be, and then those steps to get there, and break
Mm-hmm.
those steps down to as small as steps as you need to. Like you
Yes.
said, take a shower, may sound like a small step to some people, but it's a big step when you are in the pits of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if taking a shower on a regular basis is something that you want to strive for, go for it, and
Mm-hmm.
don't feel bad about that. Just put yourself one foot in front of the other each day, and
Mm-hmm.
all those little steps add up.
They do. They really do. I see a picture pretty often on social media about people taking really big steps.
Mhm.
The steps are just like really steep and tall. And then it's got a picture next to it of a person taking the smaller steps.
Yeah.
And they are just a bunch of small steps there. And it takes a lot of effort and oftentimes a lot of setbacks whenever you try to take those really big steps all by yourself.
Mhm.
And then you see the other person just gracefully going along with their smaller steps, and both people get to the same place.
Mhm.
And so,
Right.
why put yourself through the struggle of trying to take a bunch of really big steps when you could just break them down a little bit more
Mhm.
and give yourself that grace to take the smaller steps and still get to the same destination?
Yes, yes. Do whatever is comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm.
And some days that may look like big steps, some days it may be small steps, some
Mm-hmm.
days in between, but just move forward and things will snowball.
Absolutely. And I think that's a good leading area to positive psychology.
Mhm.
I think having a positive mindset can make things a lot easier.
For
Um,
sure.
because if you were so stuck in your fixed mindset that life sucks, life is hard, nothing is fair, which isn't entirely wrong, but it's not the best way to push yourself forward.
Mhm.
Do you have any tips for anybody who might be struggling with understanding, like a positive psychology or like um, trying to reframe their thoughts in a more positive way?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the phrases that you were using about life being unfair or things not going, the way we want them to go, I
Hmm.
think it's really important to take a step back. We all have intrusive thoughts at times that might
Hmm.
say negative things about how things aren't, you know, perfect, or I'm not good enough, or, whatever it may be for you. But if we can take a step back and say, well, is this actually true? Because sometimes our brain thinks things that aren't true.
Mhm.
And that's important to realize that everything we think is not true.
Mhm.
And so if we can separate ourselves from those thoughts and those emotions and look at things in a more objective manner, we can go from a negative mindset of nobody likes me to, okay, that's not true. People do like me. This person likes me.
Mhm.
This person likes me. I like me. Um, and also challenge and reframe the idea that we don't know everything.
Mhm.
So, it's so easy to assume what maybe somebody is thinking or what their intentions were, but that's really where a lot of the misconceptions and negative thinking comes into play at is in assuming. And
Mhm.
when we can kind of separate ourselves from that and say, what is true, what is real, what do I know, versus what maybe my brain is just playing a trick on me right
Mhm.
now, that
Mhm.
can open us up to then thinking, well, what do I want to fill my brain with
Mhm.
and my emotions with and my time with? And we can go from that negative to the positive, and allowing ourselves to play with how to look at the same situation from different perspectives
Mhm.
will really help us grow in that way that can make a positive influence on our lives.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And but yeah, exactly how you said, the assumption is a plays a big part there. Um because how in the world can we know what
Mhm.
someone else is thinking? Because
Exactly.
if you think about it, there's a lot of times where I don't even know what I'm thinking.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? And something to note is everybody is in their own world.
Mhm.
Everybody. And you might be thinking, oh, this person is thinking this about me, and this person's thinking this about me. And, oh, they don't like me. They're probably noticing this or whatever. The same way that you are in your own world, worried about what everybody else is thinking, that person could very well be too. They might be thinking about what you're thinking of their hair
Mhm.
or their shoes, or they could be thinking about the tests that they have in the next few hours or what's going on at home. Everybody is in their own world, going through their own struggles. And more than likely, the way you look or the way you said something is the last thing on their brain right now.
That
Like,
is so true. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Especially in our younger years,
Mm,
talking about the whole psychology perspective too. Our brains are wired in our younger years, especially our teenage years, to worry about what people think and
mm-hmm,
to wonder about what people think. And then as we get a little bit older, we start to liberate ourselves from that to not caring as much, but
mm-hmm.
also being aware that they probably weren't thinking about us in the first place.
No, no, it's
And
a little disappointing at first, but it's real.
so,
Yeah, that's something that helped me learning about like the way that um our brains and bodies naturally do things due to the way we had to survive and adapt,
mhm,
even thousands of years ago, because thousands of years ago the way people thought of you did matter.
right.
Because if think about tribes, and
Mhm,
before we had internet and an abundance of resources everywhere and help from other areas, if you stuck out like a sore thumb and your tribe banished you, nobody
mhm,
liked you, that was like a certainty of death.
right.
You weren't
Yeah.
going to get food, you weren't going to get housing, you weren't going to have protection against the animals in the wilderness and all that. But as we get older now, we realize we can do anything on our own.
Mhm,
You can be an outcast and still survive, and that's okay. And
absolutely.
and the beauty with technology now is all of us weirdos, we can be together in our own little community.
Yes.
That's something that I like about myself because, I grew up, I was the person that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. I was the girl that liked Pokemon, and
Mhm.
I was nerdy about math and science and stuff like that. And, I like to listen to the conspiracies. And
Yeah.
in today's society, I was the weird one, or I am the weird one, so to speak. But now I know that there's so many more people like me, and that's okay. We
Absolutely.
can all
Yeah,
be individuals, and we can all like our own things, and that's okay. We're not going to be banished from the tribe and,
for sure.
be left out in the wilderness. It's
Yeah,
okay to be unique.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, so embracing my uniqueness has been a real big kind of healing part of my journey.
Mhm.
And I think it can be with a lot of other people as well. Just
For sure.
embracing the things that you thought, might have not made you good enough or made you
Yeah,
unlikable, because
absolutely.
it's just not the truth.
Yeah, and you mentioned like going back to like our the way our brains are wired from like, you know, when we lived in tribes, but
Mhm.
also that some of that comes from how you were raised too.
Mm.
If your brain was, if you were in an environment where you did not receive love
Mhm.
unless you did this, this, and this, then you may have some tendency towards people pleasing,
Mhm.
or so yeah, our brains are very amazing in the way that they fire and wire together. And once we understand that, it allows us to use it to our advantage instead of our disadvantage.
Yes. Oh, I absolutely agree. Is there anything else that you wanted to chat about?
I just want to thank you for having me on today.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
if anybody wants to find me online, Facebook is my primary platform. I am on Facebook under Jessi Carling, but you will also find me on Instagram and I'm on YouTube, a few other places. But all those will be listed under my Facebook. And that is Jessi, JESSICARLING, Carling.
Perfect. I will make sure to have your Facebook linked in the description. And you also sent me your link tree. So I'm going to
Hmm.
make sure that I put the link tree in there. And then your name will also be spelled out in the description and in the title. So it's super easy for people to find.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and
Yes.
that's the beauty you were talking about with the internet is we can
Hmm.
find our people, and for me, it's people like you that want to
Yeah.
focus on growth and healing, and I love anything to do with wellness. And so, if
Hmm.
that's kind of the things you're interested in too, and living your best life, then let's collaborate, let's connect,
Hmm.
and see where things go from there.
Yes, absolutely. Collaboration is beautiful, especially between like minds.
Absolutely,
We can really pull things together and, really help a lot of people who need help getting to that area. So I was
100%.
really thrilled to collab with you today.
Yes, thank you so much for
Yes.
having me. It's been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Oh, it's been great having you. You have great insight. So awesome. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. You
Thank
as
you.
well, Ivy.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.